Hello, welcome back to the Mr. Arsenal podcast for this week's episode of the mine and Andrew's Q&A, weekly Q&A. As I'm joined by Andrew. How you doing, Andrew?
Right, mate.
You've had a busy weekend. Happy weekend.
Yes, yeah. Busy getting ready for my holiday tomorrow. So loads to do. But yeah, it's been a great weekend football wise, isn't it? Can't really complain about anything. You know, Arsenal winning, Man United losing, West Ham losing, Chelsea and Tottenham dropping points, even though Tottenham should have lost. But yeah, it's been a good weekend all round, mate. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. As I say, match day 2, and we're already either 6 points or 2 points ahead of our rivals now, respectively. Rivals, sorry. And we're joint top 5 with Man City. And
the only two teams with 100% record so far, which is quite amazing, really, after just 2 games. But I'll take it all day long.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then, as I say, I think in terms of today's result, with them, the other two London teams, that was like the best of a bad situation, really, being a draw. That's no one won. They both dropped points. We've pulled away from both, and it's just like. But there's dodgy calls in that game now. I don't care what anyone says.
I mean, honestly, that last minute goal. I mean, come on. I mean, you just see that the hair pulling dragged him to the floor.
Literally, it wasn't even like it was by accident. He just yanked
right in front of the ref.
Gone vroom. And VAR looked at it and seen the aggression in it as well that we've all seen. No, play on.
Mike Dean again, apparently.
Oh, for God's sake!
But I mean,
how can he still have a job?
I know. Well, he did us a favour yesterday, so I'll never say a bad word again about him. To be fair,
I mean, to be fair, if that had been given yesterday,
I know.
The Vardy dive, I would have lost my mind.
I know exactly, but yeah, that's him all over, isn't it? How that wasn't disallowed, it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable decision. I mean, that is if VAR can't get that sort of thing right, what is the point in VAR? What is the point?
This is the thing is, it's only match day 2, and we're having these issues already.
Yeah.
Because people again say it again and again in terms of the idea of VAR isn't the problem. It's the people implementing the fucking thing over and over and over again and keep messing it up. They change the rules every fucking season to benefit them. And when the season starts, they have this big meeting. Oh, this is going to happen. Match day 1, match day 2, and we're having literally people's hairs being yanked out their head. What was it? There's incidences last week where players nearly lost their legs. It's ridiculous. The rest of them go, no, play on.
Unbelievable. I know. You know, we've had our own where Xhaka, it wasn't anything that made us lose the game, thank God. But, you know, where Xhaka got booked for diving and then... that's a bit random, but yeah, a bit of a random thing. But yeah, I love Anders Limpar. Yeah, where was I? Oh yes, and the one guy gets booked for diving, the other guy doesn't get booked for diving in the same game. It's just so ridiculous, and obviously there's the same referee involved in when it's the same game. So how can you not have consistency there? Things like that, and you know, obviously dangerous tackles going completely. I mean, Romero should have been sent off in both games so far this season.
Yeah,
clearly. And
because his name's not Granit Xhaka and he doesn't have a cannon in his shirt, nothing gets done. Just so.
No, exactly. Sorry. But yeah, the referee. Now, I don't want to get bogged down in the referee. It's boring. We don't need to talk about that.
We'll just repeat ourselves every week otherwise.
I know, exactly. There's more important things and more interesting things to talk about.
The more important thing, we won our game. I think the main thing was we won yesterday. We're going to Bournemouth, away from home, on Sky. We're going to win there more likely as well, confidence-wise, the way that's going. We might have Tillemans by then. Rumour has it he hasn't left the Emirates yet.
Yeah. I know, yeah. Well, obviously, he didn't have the best of game again yesterday, and people saying, "Oh, well, we shouldn't buy him anyway because he didn't play well on the day." But you can't forget how good he is as a player, and he would improve our squad. And I'm sure working under Mikel Arteta in this team, he would just come, bring the best out of him, get back to the best form that we all know that he's got. So I still would love to get him on board. But nothing seems to be happening.
No, do you think Granit though yesterday, knowing that he must know that obviously of all the positions in the midfield, if Tielemans was to come in, even if he weren't coming, Zinchenko's there, but his position in the midfield is the one that most up for fit. Do you think his performance yesterday was a message to Tielemans? If you are going to come, I'm not going to go down lightly.
Yeah, I think it's only going to be a good thing for the squad, isn't it? If Granit says you're getting my position over my dead body and plays out of his skin for the rest of the season, then happy days. None of us are going to be complaining about that, are we? So it's the same for Kieran Tierney. It's the same for Tomiyasu. It's the same for loads of players across the pitch. They've got competition now for their place. And, Martinelli and Smith Rowe obviously having a battle. And the only winner is going to be Arsenal at the end of the day. So if Granit starts thinking like that, then great, because he needs that pressure on him. He said in the All or Nothing documentary, didn't he, that he wants the pressure. That's why he's a professional footballer. That's what comes with the job, and he thrives on it. So bring in someone like Tielemans, and we'll see how he carries on performing.
Yeah, exactly. And we just take it game by game. Especially, I keep saying, people will get bored of me saying it, but we've got a World Cup slap bang in the middle of the season, which means we're going to get a congestion of games before the World Cup. So we need to make the most of what we've got, make the most of this time frame, and literally the rotations in our squad is going to be interesting, so we say. And just pray and touch a lot of wood that we get no injuries. Or long-term injuries, even if it's little niggles, no injuries whatsoever. Because I think finally we have got, in terms of when we have a fully fit squad, it does seem very, very strong now. Like I was saying yesterday, the lineup came out that we compared the bench from yesterday to the previous week. It looked so much stronger, just with 2 players coming back, the 3, sorry.
Sorry, I am here. My fans just bloody stopped working. Well, unbelievable. It's not what you need in this heat.
No. Oh my god! But no, I was just saying, literally comparing yesterday's bench to the bench against Palace. Obviously, the Palace bench we saw with failures, we saw the weaknesses there in terms of how lightweight it looked. Compare it to yesterday, where we took Tomiyasu, Smith Rowe, and Tierney all came back. Suddenly, our bench even looked stronger. Yeah. We had more options if we wanted.
Yeah, definitely. And it's only going to get even better when Vieira's properly back on, in contention. So he can have a position on the bench. And if we do bring another couple of players in, they're going to be on the bench too, unless they dislodge other people straight away. In which case, those starters will be on the bench. So it's a win-win, or either way around. So it's honestly the whole squad is like chalk and cheese from this time last year, isn't it? Already, just within 12 months.
Yeah.
So it's very, very exciting, really exciting the way things are going, and every player really wants to be here. Might have to still have the odd one or two. Obviously, players like Nicolas Pepe, I'm sure, are a bit up in the air. But, these players are very fringe players anyway at the moment now. Ainsley and, Reece and players like that. So we've got a few players that are probably still, got one foot off the boat, if you like. But it's only looking good. It's only looking really positive. And I've been joking, obviously, today and yesterday that we're going to do a Leicester 2016 and just surprise people and go and win the league this year. But I'm obviously joking about winning the league, but I still think we're going to have an amazing season and shock quite a lot of teams and professionals along the way. Because we all saw that graphic that was doing the rounds before the season kicked off with all the professional pundits and predicting their top their league table, and I think only one person, I can't remember who it was now, one person had Arsenal in the top 4, didn't they? Out of what, 20 odd?
Oh, bloody hell,
I think it was.
Carragher,
So I'm
Neville,
just,
they had the usual suspects: City, Liverpool,
Chelsea,
United,
Tottenham.
or
I think
Chelsea,
pretty
Tottenham.
much all of them had Chelsea and Man United
Mm.
having more of a chance of finishing in the top 4 than Arsenal. And how they're going to have egg on their faces very, very quickly because, I mean, wow, we haven't even spoken about the Man United game yet. It's just unbelievably hilarious.
Long may it continue.
I mean, even they surpassed themselves yesterday by going 4-0 down after 34 minutes. It was just brilliant. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was just laughing my head off.
As the day goes by.
I know. It's just absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, he's probably jumped right ahead to the beginning, the front of the sack race already. Old Ten Hag.
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But we've got a couple of questions from Nemeth in the chat, and we've got one question from Ray as well. I don't know. Do we really want to take Stuart's question seriously?
Yeah. No. Maybe we'll see how many questions we get in.
We get your questions in the chat as well, but we've covered the first one from Nemeth. He was asking, do you think we'll sign anyone else during this summer?
Oh, yes, sorry, my fans have come back on. I'm well happy.
The little things in life.
It is, yeah. Just sitting here sweating me. No,
yeah, you don't.
I'll stop the sentence there. Yes, I do. Yeah, I do think we'll sign a couple more players, to be honest. Well, I say a couple more. I think we'll definitely sign one, possibly two. And everyone's seen, again, probably the image that's been doing the rounds so far of Edu flying off to Valencia or wherever it was earlier on today.
Yeah.
So that looks quite positive, considering we're very strongly linked to Jeremy Pino, who's looks really quite an exciting young player. So we'll see how that goes. But I still got a sneaking suspicion we will get another midfielder in as well. So yeah, I do. I mean, just to answer the question, I do think we'll get another forward player and midfielder.
Yeah, I do. So as I say, the fact we've seen it go do the rounds today in terms of they're going to Valencia this morning, jumping on a plane to Valencia this morning by the Luton airport and all that. I think that would be the winger in terms of. I think that would be the next one, position-wise. We'll sort out the looks of it. Going by what we're seeing today, I think I've said in terms of Tielemans, I think that'd be the last thing we do. I think in general, Tielemans or another central midfielder, I think that'd be the last thing we do in this window. I stand by it until improved otherwise. I think that would be the case.
I've got a vision of. Sorry.
No,
go on. I was going to say I've got a vision that right late on in the window, Tielemans might hand in a transfer request just to push it through.
As I've seen Stuart's his comment in the WhatsApp group.
I know. Is there a new one after the question?
I think he's watching. He just said, "No, genuine question."
Brilliant. Okay, we'll answer it later.
The listeners and the watchers, you guys have no idea. Wait till you hear the question. You'll understand. No, but sorry, you interrupt. But yeah, you were saying you've got this vision of Tielemans and in the contract request, transfer request. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. It's all down to posturing about the fee. Arsenal are just going to try and get a reduced fee. I think he will just really want the move. And he probably may well, a day or two to go, even on transfer deadline day, it might be one of those situations where he hands in a transfer request.
Just to force the issue, basically. Like, no, I don't want to be here. This is where I want to go. Let me go. I kind of feel sorry for the Leicester fans, though, because in the midst of all this, they've lost, obviously,
I don't feel sorry for them one bit, but yeah.
In the sense, obviously with the ownership coming up from the Championship, they won the league. They've maintained a sort of established Premier League club now, part of the furniture. They've got themselves into Europe. They brought in Brendan Rodgers as well to get them that one step further.
Won the FA Cup as well.
They won the FA Cup, but he bottled fourth 2 times in a row on the last day. And then literally, obviously, with the owner's situation as well, in passing the way he did and his son taking over, then winning the FA Cup in his memory and all that. Then just out of nowhere this year, it just seems like, whatever. For me, it just feels like the owner doesn't have faith in Brendan anymore. He literally just like, whatever's gone on last year, there's something's gone on clearly because they don't sign no one.
And they might sell their centre back as well before the end of the window.
As I say, they lost to Michael. It looks like the Teamers has wanted that for over a year now. Looks like they're going to lose him. Newcastle want Maddison. Chelsea want Fofana for 85 million.
Oh well, they're going to get him for 25 now. They owe us a massive bottle of wine because after yesterday's performance, Martinelli ripping him to shreds must have halved his transfer fee at least. So.
Fofana did struggle massively in terms of what he had.
Martinelli ripped him a new one, to be honest.
No, but it's just it's just like you've gone for you've got this great squad and there's just out of nowhere they either won out or it's in the club just doesn't seem to either have the gumption to sack the manager they don't have faith in, or are willing to sacrifice the squad on the short term for the long term. For the long term, in terms of short term, they'll eventually get rid of Brendan once they do the magic 7 games. If
the worst case scenario happened for them, and they sold Maddison, Fofana, and Tielemans, I would seriously question whether they would stay in the league. I'd put them right up there as really struggling for relegation because look at last season; they were dreadful last season already.
And then you look at yesterday's game. Twice they got both goals that are scored are handed in basically because poor goalkeeping and poor communication and goalkeeping and defending for the first goal. Everyone just not one individual mistake, but it was collective there. Then the poor goalkeeping for the Maddison goal. But in both incidences, within a minute of them getting themselves back into contention for the game, we got the other end and put the ball back in there and kill the game off again. And that's we've not seen that from Leicester for a while. Not again. I was praising it from the Arsenal perspective. I love to see that. It's like that sort of how dare you score against us? Now we're going to punish you at the first opportunity, and we did. But if you're a Leicester fan, you must be very, very, very worried about what your season holds up. They've got no European football this year either because they fed out all the spots. It's going to be. Imagine they do get relegated. Bloody hell!
I can't believe that they or one of the other clubs. I can't believe really didn't push forward with their interest in Leno. Look at their goalkeeper yesterday. He's showing that he's hardly had any football in the last few years. So he looked really dodgy for a start. Weren't they one of the other clubs that were just slightly rumoured to be interested in Ainsley as well at some stage? They need something. If they go through this window and not sign any players, it would just be, quite frankly, unbelievable, for a club like Leicester. Anyway, I don't know why we're talking so much about that.
Because obviously, no.
But it's funny old situation down there, that's for sure. That really is.
It is what it is. But another question from Nemeth as well. What do you guys think of Josh after watching All or Nothing? The documentary is referring to.
Yeah. We've had the conversation before about the Cronkies quite recently as well, haven't we? The one thing that gives me real hope is that, as I mentioned, was it last week or the week before, about Amy Lawrence who's obviously met him and interviewed him, and she was asked a question on the Handbrake Off podcast with The Athletic, saying, and I think one of them said, well, if he does love, he says he loves Arsenal, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But her reply was, he does love Arsenal. He does love the club. And she's obviously a real staunch Arsenal fan. You can't find a bigger Arsenal fan than her, obviously, across the years. So I'll take her word for that. And that gave me a lot of hope when I heard her say that, because I do trust what she says, because she's only got the club's best interests at heart.
Yeah, she's one of us herself. So
yeah, absolutely, 100%. So that's really good. I really enjoyed hearing those words come out of her mouth. And I'll reiterate what I've said before. I'm content. I'm not going to go overboard, but I'm content with the ownership at the moment. Though they've made big errors, but it looks like they are doing their absolute best to make them right. And they're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we could have far worse owners at the moment.
Yeah,
we don't have to relitigate everything they've done wrong. We've been through it all in several podcasts recently, and we all know all the issues that they've had in the past. But what I'm seeing on the pitch and what they're doing, they're not just talking the talk; they're walking the walk at the moment with regards to the backing they've given the manager, the amount of money they're putting into the club. Don't know. We'll never find out 100% that probably where the money's properly come from for all these signings. But at the end of the day, they are liable for it, whatever happens, because they're the owners of the club 100%. So they're liable for all this money, and they're willing to spend it and back the manager. So regardless of where it comes from, they are doing the right thing. So since 2018, they've corrected the mistakes of the wrong hires that they made at the top of the club eventually. And now it looks like they've got all the right people in place, and they're fulfilling this plan that they've all laid out. So I'm quite happy at the moment, quite content.
Yeah. We've touched on this before, but yeah, I mean, we saw him briefly in the first two episodes. Mainly the first episode. It was in the start of the second, I think. But
I don't like his beard, by the way. That's one thing I don't like.
It does need to shave up. The COVID beard needs to go.
Utterly ridiculous, mate. So that's the one thing I don't like about him.
Really stringy, long and stringy. Yeah.
Yeah, looks like cat weasel or something like that.
Yeah, if you know, you know. But no, in terms of what we saw in the documentary as well, was very how even though when Josh is in the country, behind the scenes, how hands-on he is, and in terms of keeping an eye on things and making sure Arteta's okay, Edu's okay, not just day-to-day wise, but in terms of their mental health, their mental well-being, how they are behaving, basically, in terms of their body language and things like that. And that goes down. That does mean a lot to obviously the people in question. Obviously, that when things get tough and all that, it's good to know that your owner does have that side of him where you're actually, well, in terms of Josh anyway, will have that side of him where you actually put a hand out and see it, put an arm around and not basically be one of them ones that are quick fire up bang. And obviously we've seen that in terms of how we've approached this just over 2.5 years of Arteta so far. There's been moments where you thought, this is it, he's gone. But they're stuck with him. They've got their back to him. They're 2 years in the trot now. Again, I've been proven wrong. I had my hands up back in May. I said this is a big summer because I wanted to be proven wrong in terms of how last summer went about. Because obviously it was at the back of last summer was in the back of the Super League palaver, and I wanted to be proven wrong because I didn't want the negative side of me. I say the negative side of me was thinking that the transfer window last year was just a shut up the fans sort of. We fucked up, but we need to do something to shut the fans up, sort of thing. Spend the money, do whatever you want, go and do it. And then we don't. But And I was hoping we continue it this year, and we have. But there's a cynical side of me is thinking it was just a one-off thing, and thankfully it hasn't been. We've gone out and have been back together. I think we're either the top or second highest team spending wise this in Europe again this summer so far. There's still 2.5 weeks to go. And as I say, we are looking at because we are looking at midfielders. So that total so far could even surpass last year's total. So they are backing him. This is a big criticism of under Emery. They didn't really back him because he wanted players that he got the alternative, basically. He wanted Steven and Zonzi. We got end up today.
They got the players from the upside down instead of the players from the actual world that he wanted.
Yeah, pretty much. He actually wanted Thomas Partey as well. I want to fast forward a year after was it 9-10 months after he left. What do you go and do? Go and get Thomas Partey. He's thinking, you bastards. Where was this last year? But yeah, it's looking good. A lot of people, even neutrals, are saying about this, and from like media and rival fans, are saying this documentary has actually been a blessing for Arsenal and the Kroenkes in Josh anyway. Don't know about this because I've actually seen Stan at all, but Josh, because obviously Josh, he's been the first and force of the KSC in terms of the company, in terms of running the club. But there's no one apart from a certain striker who's been asked, Ray's asked a question about it a bit. I'll get into it in a bit. Apart from that situation in episode 4 into episode 5, that one player, everyone else has come out smelling the roses so far. In terms of players themselves, the Saka, Smith, Rose, Odegaard, Jacques in the last episode when he was doing his interview at home with his daughters and his wife interviewed Arteta, even on and off the pitch, in terms of in the dressing room, how he behaves, how he acts to a really bad game. In terms of the main one was obviously that Nottingham Forest game. Going off a bit here, but how Arteta reacted at a full time, how he was so angry with the team, how he felt they hadn't performed, and he just vented. He completely didn't let anyone talk. He just went bang, vent, and then just turned around and walked out and left them to it.
Yeah, mic drop.
Yeah. Absolutely. Again, I've loved seeing that because these are things I wanted to see. And in terms of going back to the Kroenkes, in terms of Joss, we are seeing how we hear things that he does. We've heard these things before the documentary that he is very hands-on. He does this. He does come to visit. But we wanted to see the proof. We wanted to see that instead of just taking people's word for it. You can just be told it. Like, oh, okay, well, you've said it. You're a credible source, so we're going to believe you. Whereas now we've physically seen it. There's no getting around it. And I say everyone's come out smelling roses so far, and Josh has been in one of them. And it does seem, in the long run, actually, since I come after the little stint at the start of their full ownership, where they make again. Another thing I like about Josh is that we have made mistakes since becoming full owners in 2018. We made mistakes at the beginning. We understand that. We hold our hands up, but it's how we, like any company, is how you deal with that, how you react to that, how you move on from that. And since then, since the last nose up back in the back end of the lockdown season. With the European Super League side, I got a brain freeze there because the fucking brain's gone dead. Since then, we've not had anything to complain about the Kroenkes because they've backed the manager, they've got behind, they've stuck by him in the different times at the start of last season, and they continue to back him as well this season.
Yeah, exactly. Not much else to say on it. I think it's we're looking good at the moment. And along when that continues.
It could be worse. We could be Man United fans. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
100%. We could be Everton fans and all.
Oh my God! Just imagine. Bloody hell. The thing is, that's another thing in terms of, again, another thing we didn't realise at the time, but we sort of escaped it, was obviously the other potential ownership that we could have had that would have
Yeah.
screwed us back into last season,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, exactly.
we saw with Chelsea.
Mr. Spotify as well.
Yeah, Mr. Spotify popped up and disappeared after he got his little visit to the North London Derby, Vonley and all that, and then suddenly he's gone quiet.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Just got off questions before we go to today's question. There's not a question, but just commenting from Alpha Eagle says apparently Ten Hag made the United players run 13.8 kilometres or whatever. He cancelled their day off today and they're meant to be off today. He brought them all in apparently.
Where the hell did he come up with 13.8? Why didn't he just say 14?
Just do the foot. Yeah, you're close.
That's just being pedantic. That is.
Oh my day. I've got a sort of question going back to Leicester we talked about before. Nemeth asking why did they sell Casper? Obviously, Casper Smart. He was world class. I don't think it was against. I don't think it was of their own wanting. It was he just wanted to move on.
Yeah,
and needs the new ownership and new money and all that. Think about it. But yeah,
they probably wouldn't give him the length of contract because he's 35, I think. They probably wouldn't give him the length of contract that he wanted, and Nice would. But he also he just wanted a new, just a fresh start, didn't he? Somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know if they said in the chat. He was in earlier, but Victory's questioning now. Thoughts on Uber potentially joining Chelsea? They clearly need a striker.
I'm a bit torn on this one, to be honest. I saw the question earlier. Yeah. And I can't really give a definitive answer on how I feel about it, really, because on one hand, I'm like, he's gone, don't care, he can do what he likes. On the other hand, if he comes back to Chelsea and starts banging in the goals, especially if he scores against us, you'll never hear the end of it from all these idiots on Twitter, even though it was a complete and utter fact that he had to go in the end. We've all seen it with our own eyes now from the All or Nothing documentary about what happened as well. And the fact that he wasn't scoring goals for us at all. All us fans, well, not all of us fans, I'm going to stop doing all the generalisation, but there were a lot of fans who were really slagging him off, saying he's not running for us, he doesn't care. He's just given up on the pitch. And our own fan base was going after him in droves as well. So he had to go. We had to get the money off the wage bill, otherwise he would have been saddled for another season after last season as well. So it was the right thing to do. So if he comes back and it just stirs up the hornet's nest again, and we can all do without that, because we've all got such good feeling towards the club at the moment, towards the manager, and there's never been a better feeling inside the stadium for years. So I don't want all this sort of muck stirred up again. What I will say, if he did come back, he probably would start off like a house on fire, like he did at Barcelona, and then he would just tail off again, like he's done at Barcelona, like he's done everywhere else. So I'm really torn. I don't know how to feel about it, to be honest. How are you feeling about it? Because one thing they were talking about, £21 million.
For 30, he's what, 33?
Yeah.
Older.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he's a 33-year-old striker. It'll be a short-term fix for a long-term problem. Then they're back to square one.
They'll pay him a fortune. He'll get the massive contract like he did with us, and then he'll be rubbing his hands together because he's got a contract for 2 or 3 years on massive wages, and they will have the same problem that we had.
And the thing is that they won't get the initial success that we got in terms of goals galore and maybe the trophy and all that. It'll literally be he'll arrive, and as you say, he'll get what he wants in terms of the contract, the contract and wages, and he'll be like, no. The thing is, I don't think if he comes back, he'll hit the ground running like he did when he came to us all them years ago.
Well, it's bound not to.
Player now, and as we saw after we signed that contract, the last one with us, he struggled. either he fell off the cliff or that last 6 months, especially the last season before we got rid of him. He was hitting he was hitting the post from an open goal against Newcastle. It just didn't seem bothered. I mean, we went to the Anfield in the league last season. We're doing a watch long for that, and he's walking. And we've seen the documentary going into that episode. He wanted his players run through brick walls, don't go missing. I'm sorry, Aubameyang went missing in that game. He just walked away. He was just walking around the pitch. He wasn't putting pressure on the defence or nothing.
No.
And I think this is what Chelsea have got to consider. I know Tuchel's got that relationship with him, but Tuchel's got to remember he had to suspend Aubameyang twice for doing what he did at Arsenal, because he did that at Dortmund to come to Arsenal in the first place. And he was kicking up the fuss. So he's got to take that in consideration. There's not even big pros in it, not major pros in it anymore. There's a possible pro if he comes and hits the ground running. But there's more cons than the cons massively weigh out the pros now with Aubameyang.
You see,
if he does go, that's up to him. He's got a new squad numbers. I don't see it happening, if I'm brutally honest. But you never know. If he does come, I honestly don't. I'm not fearful. I'm not going, oh no, they've got a goal scorer now, because
it won't last.
He went to Barcelona, hit the ground running for a few months, and now he's gone off the gas again.
Well, we were a lot more worried when they bought Lukaku.
Yeah.
And look what happened to him. You know, Aubameyang might come in and might score on his debut or something like that, but we know for a fact it ain't going to last. We know that because history tells us that, and he's only going to go one way from now on because of his age. And he's not a Lewandowski or these one that Benzema, who are a similar sort of age, but they're still hyper sort of motivated. He's not like that.
No.
He just wants the money at this stage of his life to keep wrapping his cars. You know, that's all he needs the money for now, and paying for his massive mansions and fleets of cars that he's got. It's like, he's not motivated by being one of the best players in the world like Lewandowski is or Benzema is. He's just not that kind of player, and we've seen it with our own eyes. So I'm not really concerned, to be honest, deep down.
Yeah, another thing that Chelsea need to take into consideration now, as you said before, we've all seen how the fallout ended, how it all went about, the fallout, in terms of Aubameyang and what actually and when it happened, who was in the wrong throughout the entire process of him going, from being suspended to losing the armband to actually going. And I said this, and I was doing the thing on Thursday with Gary. We're sitting here watching it, and I'm watching him. But when just before he lost the armband, when he initially got suspended, it was just about to announce it to the players, his teammates, that he's continuing to be suspended, training his own, and by the way, he's no longer the club captain. He's sitting in a room on his own, just sitting there, staring at the centre space, and it's his body language straight from there on in. Gave you that suggestion. He just gave up. He was like, I don't want to be here. And then you see the little clips where he's being taken out for his training, one-on-one training. And again, his body language, how he's talking to the coach and all that. It's just, you knew he didn't want to be there. You knew you could tell he'd given up. He did have that fight. And for Chelsea, under new ownership and all that, do they really want to take on a player that doesn't have that fight about him anymore? Like you said about, obviously, he just wants money to grab his cars or whatever. And to also, where on a transfer deadline day, when he's meant to be at the club training ground training, he does what he does in terms of Barcelona.
That was massively eye-opening, wasn't it, actually?
Yeah.
When Edu, you realise he's in Barcelona? Who? Really?
Uber, signing Barcelona.
Okay.
All that.
I know. It's unbelievable what Edu's reaction. Is he? Really?
I think that moment, and obviously him seeing the video, but show me before phoning anyone, show me the video. Make sure it was actually him and not someone close up resemblant of him. Okay. And then I think that before he made the phone call to the representative, I think that was a nail in the coffin for him to fully be on Arteta's side.
100%, yeah.
Because
Definitely.
obviously, in the build-up to it, he was asked by the producer, obviously, asking the questions. Was it easy for you to back Arteta in these situations? And he went, and obviously, as we know, he went no, because you've got to take all these factors into consideration. It's a fan favourite. He scores goals. The players love him. It's like, but in that moment, I think that was the final. Because obviously they're working on it up to that point. But I think that was the nail in the coffin that he was like, you know what? Mikel's right. In this situation, Mikel is doing the right thing here for the long term, not just short term, but for the long term as well.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
he was just like, you know what? We're not going to bend the knee for him, but we're going to make them sweat, and then we'll get what we want one way or the other. But it was just like that. Enough's enough. That sort of, and when he makes that phone call to Aubameyang's rep, and the rep says basically, "Oh, he's got family out in Barcelona. His dad's there."
Yeah, and he said about
Edu's response was brilliant.
yeah,
Oh yeah, and we're in Disneyland World.
yeah,
I was like, yeah. Even he'd had enough at that point, and he's like, nah. Again, I like about Edu because it shows he'll be nice to you and all that. He's got this. He won't cause any problems, but if you fucking about, and he knows you're fucking about, you won't suffer no fall. Basically, he ain't going to go, oh, okay, no problem, sort of thing. I'll believe you. He's not wet behind the ear. He'll actually come back. I mean, the comeback was brilliant, as I say. But
yeah.
My point is, if Chelsea then, sorry, after seeing all that, now that's aired out in the open, still want to go after someone like him, knock yourselves out, because you're going to have the same issue. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
In a few months' time, you're going to have the same issue, and then what? You're stuck down under new ownership, by the way, stuck with a 33 going on 34-year-old player who doesn't want to be at your club anymore after 6 months, who isn't giving you anything on the pitch either, just like Lukaku. But it's that's to say, good luck to them if they didn't want to do that, knock themselves out. It helps us, it benefits us, because obviously then it's strength. We've got a stronger squad, and as we've seen, I know it's only been 3 seasons, 2 games in the league, but we're stronger. We're so far, we're much more stronger without him.
Yeah,
as a
definitely.
whole, and it's strength. As I say, if they do that, it'll weaken them, but it'll strengthen us, because we can just go, okay, we know he ain't going to turn up for you, especially against us. Boom, and we'll just crack on and do our thing for this season and pull away.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. We've got another question here from Colonel. He's saying, that's it. He's saying, who would win if we match up the old Arsenal teams against each other, like 71 versus 89 team, and the 91 team versus the 2004 team? Who do you reckon wins?
Well, it's so hard. I mean, I'm not old enough to obviously remember watching the 71 team. It's only ever things I've seen on video. But the 89 team, to me, just had so much grit and determination and skill and, motivation from the manager. It was unbelievable. So, I mean, I'm going to be biased on the first one and say the 89 team, because it's obviously my sort of generation, as is the 91 team as well, which was amazing. I mean, they should have been invincible as well.
The original Invincible, they should have been, yeah.
Absolutely should have been. So, I mean, the 91, for me, the first one, as much I love the 1971 team as well, for me, it's got to be the 89 team.
Mm-hmm.
But that is purely down to my personal bias because of my age. But the 91 team and the 2004 team was actually harder than you'd think, because the 91 team was vastly underrated, massively underrated.
Yeah.
We let in 18 goals for the whole season in that season.
Yeah.
18 goals.
With a new goalkeeper in goal as well.
Yeah.
Replacing John Lukic.
Yeah. So there's a lot of prime players in there as well. And the defence is pretty much unrivaled to this day.
Mm.
Not even like with a massively biased Arsenal hat on. I think a lot of people who know about football will say that as well.
Mm. I mean, the 91 team, but David O'Leary in that defence as well. Obviously, David Seaman just came in that first season. David O'Leary, you got Dicko, you got Winterburn, Adams, Bold.
Yeah, exactly.
You got Mickey Thomas Davis,
Rocastle,
Kev Campbell, just that his first full season.
Ian Wright,
more than 8
Limpar, we mentioned earlier. Yep. It's just a great team, really underrated team. But the only thing is, what you have to get on board with is the differences in football across the years as well, and the advances in technology and medicine. Yeah. I know, exactly. The advances in football with regards to medicine and diet and nutrition and exercise and technology. The 2014 Invincibles were just so far ahead of their time, weren't they, with regards to that? So the slick football is like nothing I've ever seen before or seen since. It was just breathtaking. It's far, far, far better to watch than any Man City team we've ever put out. The pace in our attack, from defence to attack in transition, was unbelievable. I've never seen it before. Excuse me. So I would have to reluctantly sort of say that 2014 would be able to overrun the 1991 team because of just the way that the football had advanced over the years more than anything. The fitness was a completely different situation. I mean, they were still down the Tuesday Club at the time, didn't they? The 1991 team, and all going out in the piss, and you know, the fitness levels of the 2014 would just blitz them, I think.
Think about it. Just a tad of on. The 014, the A&R'S, Viltor, Kanu, Burkamp in attack, Vieira's, Roberto, Edu, Ray Parler, Freddie Perez. Trying to think, Ashley Cole, left back,
Sol
Campbell,
Jens Lehmann,
Lenz Lehmann, mad German Lenz Lehmann.
The whole team,
the whole squad as a whole. But even if a player was injured, like one of the first 11, someone would come in and they wouldn't look out of place. You knew they wouldn't look out of place. You still had confidence in them. It's just that unit that they had, and as I said, the fitness, especially the likes of the Parlers and the Keown and all that had come through that generation as well into the Invincible side. It was just, even though they will say it was different levels, different wavelengths, because of what Wenger then had transformed football in, not just for the club but for the entire country. As you say, the fitness level just went through the roof compared to what we had in '91. As I say, the Tuesday Club and all that.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is,
I reckon.
Yeah, no one can disrespect that 1991 team. It was just a phenomenal team, and although we had the boring Arsenal tag because we just kept winning games 1-0, 1-0, all this sort of stuff, we were far from boring that season. We were the top scorers in the league, but we also were the miserliest defence. You know, like I said, only letting in 18 goals. So, although we were incredibly solid defensively, we were free scoring as well.
Yeah,
exciting in attack. So. And I do genuinely think it's one of the most underrated sides that there's been, that 1991 side. So I'm never ever going to disrespect them, and I love them so much. You know, it's just my prime sort of, youth years watching them and going down Highbury most weeks. But I have to say, just because of the advancements in everything from the Premier League era, I'll take 2014 to beat most teams on their day in history. I mean, you name it, any other of the greatest teams across the world has ever seen, the 2004 side on their day, their best day, could beat most teams.
Nemeth, I think, it did come in '92. It came in the end of the '91 season, so we just won the league. He even said he came to us as defending champions. So it would have been summer after we won that title. But then he came to us as we were defending champions. But we didn't win a title until '98 when he was at the door then.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Thanks for the correction.
Yeah,
my mistake.
But we still have, let's just say, Toby Groves, Ian, fucking got me saying now. Kevin Campbell,
Alan
Smithy, yeah. It's an amazing players, an amazing attack, midfield. I was going to say, you mentioned it. I never really thought about it before, but now you mentioned it. I don't really get it because obviously, whenever there's an anniversary for like 70 X amount of years after 71, the club and all that do something. It's always talked about online. 89, right? So talked about, stuff's done. The Invincible team, after when the Invincibles anniversary came on the 10-year, the club did something. They're doing it. It's always obviously celebrated, but the 91 was never. Doesn't really get when it comes to the anniversaries.
No, and do you know what?
Mentioned.
The other thing was obviously we had the points deduction as well, and we were all singing. One of the best times. You can all shove your 2 points up your arse. When we had the 2 points point deduction, you still won the league by a canter.
Yeah.
It was just phenomenal. And that's when we had that famous George Graham speech about everyone hates us and we've got to use it to our good effect. The media hate us. Public enemies #1. And it just galvanised the whole squad together. It just made us even stronger. And it was just a brilliant team and a brilliant season. One that we should spend more time talking about and thinking about.
Yeah. Because I've never. You mentioned I've never really thought about it, but obviously mentioning it as I thought about it, we never actually, as I say, never really celebrate it, like the anniversaries and nothing. Never really gets talked about, even online. It doesn't really get talked about to the level of the 89, the 71, and the Invincibles. Or even the 98, even the double winning 98 team gets talked about more.
Yeah, I know.
No, there's no 98 team me saying that, but I'm just saying, all our recent, in recent times, all them title wins in the recent times have always been celebrated. But as I say, the 91 just doesn't get really that recognition for some reason. And it was
lost
one defeat,
one game, one defeat,
and that's only because our captain was serving his time.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously football values TV with that comment on the screen.
Yeah,
exactly what I just said. Totally and utterly agree. I loved every minute of going to Highbury that season. And the next question, with regards to just quickly, because it covers over for me, because I've mentioned this before, and I'm sorry for telling you again loads of times, Ryan, but I used to go and see the reserves every week for free. I loved it. And Andy Cole, I saw Andy Cole play, all week after week in the Arsenal reserves around that sort of time. And I genuinely said to my mates, he's going to play for England one day. He's that good. And obviously he did. He went on to bigger and better things. That's the wrong thing to say, but
he went
away from the club.
Yeah.
But silly question, though, Nemeth. I'm sorry, mate, but there's only one for me. It's Ian Wright every single day of the week.
That's Colonel made a question, and then Nemeth comes in and says Andy Cole's a better
player.
Sorry.
It's Colonel that played.
Andy Cole. Nemeth saying Andy Cole's a better player, but Wrighty was better for Arsenal.
Well, yeah, but Wrighty was just Wrighty, wasn't he? He's just so much more to him. I mean,
yeah.
Andy Cole wasn't a better player, Nemeth, but he had a better career in terms of silverware. Because of where he went. But an absolute prime Ian Wright was a much better player than a prime Andy Cole. I'm sorry, but he was. You can't forget the fact that Ian Wright came to us so late in his career. 27, 28, whatever he was. So I can't remember the exact age. But he was getting on a bit when he came to Arsenal. He started his football career so much later, as we all know. We all know the story. but there was no better finisher, no better the striker on his day than Ian Wright. You know, Andy Cole was a goal machine for a certain, club, certain two clubs mainly, because of everyone that was around him and everything. He just ran onto and scored goals for fun as well. But I still think Ian Wright was a better all-round player than Andy Cole.
Yeah.
Even though Andy Cole, like I say, had a better career with regards to the amount of trophies that he won at United. But I would choose Ian Wright every day of the week as my striker.
Now for a question from, and this is from them. He says, Alan Smith or Ian Wright? Love them both.
Yeah, I mean, why do you have to choose? I love both. I completely concur, Nemeth. I love them both as well, and they both complemented each other so well. And Smith, Ian, I've just said a piece about Ian Wright. Alan Smith was one of the most underrated players as well. I mean, the service and he gave Arsenal was just phenomenal, and he always seemed to be overshadowed by other players. But you ask so many players from around that era who was one of the best strikers around, they all say Alan Smith, his first touch, unreal. You know, the way he held the ball up, his role he played in the 1989 title success, in the winning goal for that 1989 title success, the way that he's flicked it through to Michael Thomas, who happened to be charging through the midfield at the time. It was just phenomenal, the way he touched it in that high-pressure moment, that high-pressure situation. The way he controlled it and flicked it over to Michael Thomas was just phenomenal. And that's him all over. And he wasn't just like a target man that he lumped the ball forward to for a headed goal, although he did that brilliantly. He had a great touch as well, and he scored some brilliant goals. I mean, one of the best days I've ever had. I've mentioned this before as well. That's why I want to win the Europa League so much this year, because it's been so long since the last win. But the last win that we had, that goal he scored in the final, Alan Smith, to win it for us, was a brilliant goal.
Yeah.
Fantastic turn and volley in one movement. You go and watch it on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Anyone, if you're younger people listening and watching, if you haven't just go and look it up. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and great player. But obviously, he like I just said, he gets overshadowed by a lot of other players, and Alan Smith, because he was, this scene is like just a boring player, but personality-wise, he wasn't as sparkling as someone like Ian Wright, and that's why everyone loves Ian Wright, because not just because of what he did on the pitch, but because he's funny and he's a live wire, and it's just great fun to be around. So, I refuse to answer that question. I do love them both, because Ian Wright's always going to be your favourite, isn't he? Ian Wright's always going to be, but I don't want to be talking down about Alan Smith as well, because he had a great career at Arsenal, and he obviously got into the England team and did brilliantly as well.
Yeah. Another question for coming. Before we get into Stuart's final question, the big thinking question. Colonel Soy is saying, would you have taken Petit back if he never went to Chelsea and wanted to come back? But that's the thing. He wanted to go to United initially. He even said it himself. He never wanted to go to Chelsea. He wanted to go back. He wanted to come back to England, but play for Man United, because Man United was interested in him.
He's never looked back on as a proper legend of the club, is he? Because of
wasn't he long enough?
He wasn't here long enough, and he says some. I'll say some crap since he's retired, doesn't he? He's not. He never comes across as particularly fond of the club. Even though we, as a club, really made him as a player and shoved him into the limelight, so he got his big moves afterwards because of the trust and faith that Arsene Wenger put in him. He just wanted to go straight away. As soon as Barcelona came calling, he was off.
Yeah,
not a second thought. So no, fuck him. I don't see him that way. I thought he was a great player at the time, but I don't look back and think he's a proper Arsenal legend. He was in a great Arsenal team and he was fantastic for us when we had him. But since he's left, like I said, he's got a very high opinion of himself and he just talks some utter garbage, if I'm honest.
And also, then, let's be honest, as a midfield, we'd already moved on. We'd brought in Edu, with Vapala as well. We was working perfectly without him. And if you fast forward, summer
Gilberto then as well, didn't we?
Summer 2002, we bring in Gilberto as well after the World Cup.
That's that time, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So no, we've got the much better end of the deal getting Gilberto in.
Yeah. Oh bloody hell! This is a question. How long have you got? What do you think of Robin van Persie? Could have been an legend. He was a great player. He had 2 standout seasons over nearly a 10-year span. Pretty much was always any other time injured when we needed him most. And a bit like what you said about Petit, since he's left and retired, he says some daft things about why he left, and it always contradicts the first story. It's always something, this happened or that happened. It never takes responsibility for that situation. And I don't know, it just seems like he has more of a fondness for Man United. He was only there for one successful year, and obviously the second season, after the second year, he was gone because he fell out with the manager at the time.
Because he knows he's burnt his bridges with Arsenal fans, and they all called him a snake. That's why.
At the time, amongst other things, yeah.
At the time, I absolutely adored him. He was. And we stood by him through thick and thin as a club, and Arsene Wenger did.
Well, as I say, the amount of
treated him as a son. Exactly, yeah. And he always gave him new contracts during his injury at the time as well. Putting his faith in him. And when it came to sort of paying the club back for all of that faith they put in him and all the wages they paid him whilst he was crippled, he buggered off again. He went to. And I famously said a few times that I stopped watching Arsenal for quite a long time after he left the club because I was that pissed off about the whole situation. Selling our best players summer after summer after summer. And then when we sold him for not a big amount of money, really, to our biggest rivals at the time, our biggest rivals, not just at the time, but our biggest rivals for the last decade or more, 15 years, I was just so bitterly disappointed with the whole situation and with the club that I just stopped watching us for quite a long time. And I'll never forget that because I lost a lot of time supporting the club that I absolutely loved for my whole life. But I was that angry, I just couldn't bring myself to watch games for a long time after he left the club. So he burnt his bridges with pretty much every Arsenal fan of that era and sullied any good work that he'd done. But at the time, wow, he was genuinely one of the best strikers in the world, wasn't he, for that period of time. But everything he hit was a volley over his shoulder and it went straight into the goal. It was just unbelievable technique. But we sold the league title to Man United for £21 million, whatever it was. We literally gave them the title because if we hadn't done that, and if we'd have had him for that season, there's no chance on earth that United would have won the league that year. We would have won the league. So we would have had another league title under our belts by now if we hadn't sold our prized asset to our main rivals for £21 million. You can tell how angry I am about it now. Even though it's all those years ago, I'm still pissed off about it because was the league title worth £21 million to Arsenal? Of course, it could have changed the whole direction of the club again at that period of time. We would have become league champions again at that point. It's one of those sliding doors moments again that we could have had. If Eduardo hadn't broken his leg that time, if this, if that, but if we hadn't sold Robin van Persie, we would not have. Sorry, we would have won the league that season.
Yeah.
it still grinds my gears to this day, and that's why I find it so irritating. And I just go on a rant about it all the time because it's just, if that's one thing that I could ask Arsene Wenger, if I could sit down with him for an hour or so over a coffee and have a proper heart-to-heart chat with him, that's the first thing I would want to know about all that situation with Robin van Persie, because it just really pisses me off. And we never found out the real reason from his book or anything.
No.
What happened? Why would he do that to Man United of all clubs? Why would he sell him to Man United?
No, exactly.
I don't believe in my
That's
heart
me.
of hearts. I do not believe in my heart of hearts that he could have given the green light to that on his own. I think it must have been something else from the club, the pressure to say we've got to do it. We've got or they came to him and said we are selling Robin van Persie to Man United. I just can't believe in my heart of hearts, with all the history that he had against Alex Ferguson and Man United, why he would do that. Sell our very best player to them.
Yeah.
Make no sense whatsoever. Sorry, but it doesn't not make any sense to this day.
Well, no, especially at that time, as you say, at that time we had a squad good enough to compete on our day if we just got, again, consistency. We were consistently, in a positive sense, winning our games week in, week out. We could have challenged Man United Man United and Man City that season and won the title ourselves. That particular season, obviously Fergie then goes off and goes out in the high. But that's sort of literally him going the way he did, knocked us for a year. It took us out because obviously he didn't compete for a title then until the 13-14 season, and even then we fell off just shy in the end. But that 12-13 season, we could have literally been, obviously, that season gone there with Van Persie, with the team that we had, bringing in the players we brought in as well in Santi Cazorla. Santi Cazorla and Van Persie would have a fucking field day in that league, them two together. They brought in Giroud as a backup to Van Persie to give him some respite for certain games, this, that, and the other. We just brought in Podolski. So this whole thing of they were showing lack of ambition. We just can't have done because Podolski was. I know for a fact Podolski was signed for Arsenal in like February of that year, going into that summer where he left. We already got Podolski on the book, like all done and dusted. Giroud came in just after France got knocked out of the Euros. It was all but done. Sorry, and
He's pissed off about it.
yeah, it's just it doesn't make sense. I don't understand why even now, even with Wenger gone, either his book out or the DVD or something, no one involved in that situation wants to come out and say who spearheaded that and who allowed that, who gave the all clear for that, because it just made no sense. We were strengthening it. We literally, as you say, gave the title to United. We knew everyone knew what they needed because they lost the title the year before, and we just went, okay, there you go. Then it's completely. It was bizarre to me then. It's bizarre to me now. And as you say, when people go radio silent and don't tell us exactly even now how that all came about and why it went through and why it had to be to them of all teams. If we'd sold them to Madrid or Barcelona, whatever, we're used to Barcelona making our players at this point, that would have made more sense. But to go to not just anyone, but to Man United, it just pissed me off at the time, and I was just like, no. And you could tell the players that season, it affected them, and
Definitely.
certainly the likes of Giroud then obviously being fast tracked into being a starter basically for a year in advance. And that didn't bode well. But then obviously, as I say, the 13-14 season we did challenge, but we fell short. But also we did eventually end the 9-year drought of a trophy.
Yeah.
So it sort of counteracted. And then what also pissed me off with Van Persie, just when we move on, was the first game he played against us and he scored at Manchester. Doesn't celebrate. Fast forward the following season, scores against us and goes celebrating. I'm like, yeah, you've been a scene. That's choosing, and no. Just because you don't like the fans, because you didn't tell the fans how you wanted things, basically, how things fucking went down. So no, don't bode well on me. But we're going to wrap things up soon, guys. Got to go in a minute. Do you want to do Stuart's question? Do you want to do Stuart's question?
Yeah, well, there's another question in there about a striker as well. We put that as the first one for the next show.
The next time, yeah. Which will be in 2 weeks, by the way.
Yeah, it probably will be. I'll let you know, depending on what time I get home on next Sunday. I might be able to do it, but I can't guarantee it, so I'll let you know. But, yeah, let's just do that one from Chappers. It says, do wasps think? Well,
oh my God.
Wasps are, alongside flies, one of the most pointless and persistent and annoying creatures on Earth. Now, what you've got to decide is, do they do that on purpose? Because if they do, then they must think. Because it just keeps, I mean, certain flies from wherever you are in the world are more persistent than others. I mean, when I was in Australia and India, I had the worst flies that you've ever seen. They land on your face, and no matter if you go like that, they just don't fly off. They just stand there. They just like stay on your face. So you literally got to keep scraping them off, and then they land on your face again. It's like it drives you absolutely. You cannot tell you how annoying it is. But wasps, obviously, when they're the biggest bugbear of any summer down the beer garden in the pub, aren't they?
Especially this week.
I know, and they just absolutely take joy in making your afternoon a misery. But you have to make up your own mind as to whether they do that on purpose or not. Because if they do, then of course, they do think. Because they know what they're doing. So maybe it's one just to lead the viewers and the listeners to actually think about themselves as to whether they think that they purposely go out to make your life a misery in the afternoon, a beautiful sunny day in a pub called Beer Garden.
Or just in general. Oh dear. Well, Tahib's a fan of wasps, apparently. He says wasps are lovely, bless them.
Wasps aren't lovely. Bees are lovely. I absolutely love bees. They're not wasps. Wasps are just are bee-tech bees, aren't they? I mean, they often no. I mean, bees make honey and stuff. Wasps do nothing, absolutely nothing apart from sting you and dive bomb your beer.
Yeah, I can't bit more about you, but yeah, that was just so random earlier. Put in the group chat, guys, announcing the shows on tonight and all that. I'll get your questions in now. Obviously, they came with V's question, which we touched on, and then Stuart just comes up just before we're going live. Do wasps think, basically? And as I say, whilst we're live, he then goes, "No, serious question."
Brilliant. We can't expect anything less from Chappers.
Oh no, not at all. But I think with that, guys, we're going to wrap things up. Beads are lovely as well. Says so. He likes both. There you go. There's a rarity in itself. But yeah, we're going to wrap things up, guys. Obviously, Andrew, what have you got coming up after your holiday on your channel?
It'll be. I'll let you know on next Sunday whether I'll be able to do this show again next week. If not, it'll be the week after, as you said. But then my next show on my channel will be the Tuesday. Hopefully, after get another win in the Premier League.
3 wins from the bounce, possibly top if City drop points.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Imagine that.
What a last season, I know. But yeah, so Tuesday week will be back on From Dial Square to Where. Please go over there and give us a subscribe and tune in for that one.
Yeah. I'll be back tomorrow, guys, for the podcast review, reaction, basically, what we're going to call it, for the Arsenal v Leicester yesterday, the 4-2 win. Guests to be confirmed officially. Let me know soon, hopefully, touch wood. That'll be around 7:30 UK time anyway. Keep your eye out for that. The audio for this is going to be up in the next half hour or so once I get that download sorted. And then the download for tomorrow will be half hour after that show. But yeah, to catch it live, it'll be 7:30 here on the channel. And then, trying to think now, rest of the week is played by ear. Probably Thursday you'll see me again then for the last couple episodes, 2 or 3 episodes of the documentary, All or Nothing. Then another podcast on Friday for previewing the Bournemouth game, and then the Bournemouth game is a 5:30 kickoff, so I'll do a watch on for that with you guys. And match of the day later on, a few hours afterwards, I'll do the match of the day stream. And apart from that, that'll be that for the week, unless anything else pops up that we need to talk about. But apart from that, guys, enjoy the rest of your morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for obviously coming along, guys, and keeping us busy in the chat, keeping us company, and we've got great questions as well, as always. Even Stuart, if you're watching this back, even your question, best of the bunks that was. I'll see you soon, and as always, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.
Come on, you Gunners.